everyone. Welcome to another episode of Simply UX. I'm your host, Steven. I'm joined today by Mike from the U Design System.
Thank you, Steven. It's good to be here.
We are here to talk about what you can do right now to secure a job, whether you have been recently laid off or whether you're breaking into the industry like myself. There are definitely things that are in your control that you can shape. So we're here to talk about it. You've heard some of my thoughts already in the previous episode, but Mike, I'm curious to hear your side of things, kind of where you sit with all these tech layoffs that you've seen and what you've been observing people doing that maybe I haven't thought of yet, that are within our control that we can do.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying the within our control. I mean, one of your first episodes on Simply UX was talking about that, right? About what is in our control and what we can do. And, you know, we can get into this a little bit deeper, but Steven, I appreciate you just inviting me on. I feel like I'm feeling it too. Like I'm feeling it more like, I have a job, I work full time, and I haven't been affected directly by the layoffs, but whether it's through, I talk to a lot of college students. I talk to a lot of my colleagues that have gone through some of these layoffs. I talk to some senior level people that have been laid off and some that are in leadership roles that have been affected by this. And it's painful. And when you sit in a position where you just want to help and your time is only so limited to be able to help, you want to help as many people as you can, but we all have the same amount of time in the day. And it's hard. It's hard to watch your friends and people are like yourself, that, my network is growing of people who I see as super talented, people I would want to work with, people who I would want to build products with. And there's this struggle to get into the industry. There's a struggle to stay in the industry. There's a struggle to get promoted in the industry. And, I do believe that there are things we can do, kind of like what you said in an earlier episode, things that are in our control that we can do. I think I've formulated somewhat of a system. I have a different approach than maybe people have heard. But yeah, I do believe there's things we can do, but it does hurt and it does sting to watch some of the people you see as being the most talented people that going through this as well.
Absolutely. I've seen senior level designers, like you said, leadership. And though I haven't been through a layoff in the tech industry before, I have gone through layoffs before. If you've listened to the previous episode, in the oil and gas industry, being in lean manufacturing, they've had some layoffs in that industry multiple times. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on, whether you get laid off and you have to, frantically look for employment, or if you stay on and you slowly watch your social circle, decrease in the workplace. And you just have this unwanted stress just looming over you. Like, when am I going to lose my job? And the uncertainty is just the worst. And yeah, my heart goes out to anyone that's going through this right now, which is why I wanted to have these couple episodes dedicated to focusing on what we can do to ensure our employment.
And I think that we're in an interesting career as designers. And I've said this a few times recently that I know, Steven, of no other industry where we are equipped with so many tools at our disposal to design a better life, a better career, a better approach that we take in life to our goals. And we sit in this place where there are methods, principles, frameworks, whatever you want to call them. As designers, I feel so fortunate that if you stop and think about it, we are equipped with so much that we can do to help ourselves. I call it designing the way that you're experienced by other people. But I just know of no other career that has so much potential to take frameworks and apply them back to yourself. So that's sort of the beginnings of what I call, you mentioned earlier, the U Design System. But yeah, I think we can get a little deeper into those, but we sit in a very fortunate place, luckily, where we have some cool stuff at our disposal. I can talk more about those if you'd like, but yeah, we can get into some of those. But it's still hard. It is still not easy to watch and not easy to do. Another thing I often tell people is that as unfortunate as this may sound, you never know when you're going to be found. You never know how you're going to be found. It could be that you design the greatest portfolio. It could be that your LinkedIn profile says all the right words, and it could be your case studies resonate. It could be you're at a meetup with somebody and the conversation just goes amazing and you're referred through that conversation to a job. It could be because, you're working somewhere and they need a UX designer. There's just so much that can happen and so many variables, so many permutations of how your career is going to play out, that you do have to sort of fire on all cylinders with all of those things: resume, portfolio, case studies, LinkedIn, networking, all of it, right? And it's hard. So I don't want to downplay the fact that it is hard, but I do have ideas on how a designer can sort of maybe do a little bit more than just those standard answers, I guess, if you want to call them, of the portfolio, the LinkedIn, all the things we hear that we should do. Yep.
I went over those in the last episode, so you can check that out. I've already covered the basics. So Mike, I've watched a few of your videos on okay, not a few. I watched them all. And I think it's pretty dang awesome how you can apply UX principles and apply them right back to yourself to see how people experience you as a person. And something that I took from your advice was to make that product line design card, which I thought was super cool.
So cool that you did it.
So cool. I was like, no way, I'm totally doing this.
Yeah, so that's one, right? That's one of many ways that we can begin to look. Here's the thing. I don't think enough people take the time to realize that we are an experience. People experience us every day. The people that you talk to at work, the people at home, the people in your life, everybody that you interact with experiences you to some degree. And as I said before, we have tools at our disposal to design how we are experienced by other people. The reason that matters is because I can teach you Figma. I can teach you how to design. I can teach you our brand, our tone, our voice that I need you to design for when you come work for us. There are so many hard skills that I can teach you if you come on to our team, and I can bring you along for that journey of working for our team. What's very difficult though is if, and I'm just going to say this bluntly, if I can't stand working with you, if my experience of you is a rough one, that makes or breaks whether or not, well, a couple of things. It makes or breaks whether or not you're going to remain on that team. And I promise you that the way others experience you and the way you experience others on the team, that is going to find its way into the product. It is going to find its way into the team and eventually into the hands of the customers of the products that you design. The experience people have of each other plays such a significant role. I know we can just call them soft skills, but that's not really what I'm alluding to here. This is an experience that collectively we have with each other. And if we don't get that right, it kind of breaks all of those UX maturity scales. You often see these UX maturity scales that build their way up and say, the organization becomes more mature as you do these things. Underlying all of that, at the core and at the foundation of all of that, is this idea that, sure, that all works if I have a good experience with the people I'm doing that with. If people experience me well, then yes, then it all makes sense. So I want to be very careful to say that it's not just about how people experience me, but it's a collective effort of how you're experiencing your team members, of how you're experiencing other people. To sort of piggyback on that notion, you have to begin to see people. There's a fantastic book. I would grab it here if I knew exactly where it was, but there's a fantastic book by Teresa Torres called Continuous Discovery Habits.
Link in the description below.
Yeah. Well, we can throw it in there. Super cool framework for what she calls the the opportunity solution tree. And it's a fantastic way to build product. You should check it out. But it's also a fantastic way to think about how we design how others experience us. Because when you begin to see a recruiter, a hiring manager, your teammates, your stakeholders as users with pain points, with frustrations, with needs, desires, wants, when you begin to look at them and say, what do they want and what do they value? What's important to them? You can then start to utilize some of these methods that I can talk about a little bit later on, okay, I know what those needs, pain points, frustrations are for them. And now I can begin to design how they experience me because I'm designing for those things, right?
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that it's pretty clear, just finalizing that whole point, that, we have at our disposal a lot of tools to be able to design this, but you have to begin to see people with needs, pain points, wants, desires. When you do, you can begin to then think about it as you would a product. We should link her in this as well, because I think she's making a fantastic stride in this. Her name's Sarah Doody. If you haven't followed her, please follow her, because she's releasing a book on this called The Product of You. I believe that's the name of the book. She has a whole career roadmap. I think she has a whole course on it. She has the career strategy framework. I mean, she gets this stuff too, and I love her content. Perfect. And I guess the the spin I put on it is that I look at it as, you are an experience. What can you do to address those needs, pain points, wants, and desires of your users, or the people that you're trying to get the attention of, right? A hiring manager, a recruiter. And so, yeah, just want to make that clear that you are an experience, and if you begin to see people as people who have those needs and wants and desires, there's a lot you can do for that.
I love that so much. I always go back to that, the whole thought of improving lives. And I think that's just a big part of it. You are an experience, and you want to be able to improve those lives of the people around you, to lift them up. And as you do so, it'll also come back around to you. Though that's not the point. The point is to give of yourself, to give of you, like, the best parts of you, and to share that experience with everyone. And it will most likely, if not dramatically, then at least in some small way, improve their life.
I did an experiment once. I was down at Adobe Max, I want to say back in 2016 or 17. And there was a speaker there that gave us a challenge, and the challenge was to go home, and he said, I want you to create an anonymous survey. So I want to be clear, this is an anonymous survey. And in this survey, I want you to ask your network of friends, family members, close coworkers, people you trust in your network. And I want you to ask them two things. I want you to ask them, what are 3 adjectives that you would use to describe me? And just have that be the first question. Send it out. And then the second question that he had us ask in the survey is, what are 3 adjectives that you would use to describe me if you were talking behind my back? And it took me a minute to be willing to create that survey and send it out. But I did, and I got a lot of responses back. And it was pretty painful. The first question and the responses that came back were amazing. It was like, you're smart and you're strong and all these things. I'm like, that's right. That feels good. The next ones, man, those hurt. Yeah, those hurt. Those came back. And again, this was anonymous, so I didn't know who those people were. But I mean, there were some painful responses that came back. And so I bring that up because what I did with that is I looked at that and said, what are some of those things that I can address? At the time, it just so happened, people might not know this, but we kind of grew up in the same neighborhood or close neighborhoods, you and I. Yep. And so you might have known my dad, and my dad passed away around that time in 2017. And when he passed, I was kind of looked at as I don't know if you'd say the organizer, but I kind of knew with my career that I could take some of those elements and organize this funeral and get things ready. And so what I did is I said, I'm going to take all those negative things that people said about me, and I'm going to take this experience of designing my dad's funeral. I thought about it in designing my dad's funeral, and I'm going to make this so good that people are going to experience me in a different way. So I actually created a Kanban board, or, if listeners don't know what a Kanban board is, it's essentially, you take things in columns from to do to in progress to done, and they move in that left to right flow, right? And I took all of the tasks, all the things from writing the obituary to getting flowers to getting the program done to anything that needed to be done for that funeral, and I put it through this process. So any roadblocks that came up, any tasks that needed to be done. And I tell you, the funeral was, we were sad. Lost my dad, right? But the whole process was so smooth to be able to apply a principle like that, a framework for design to something in my life so that people could experience me in a different way. I look at that as sort of the initial taste that I got of what it can do when you begin to apply UX principles and design principles to yourself, whether it be a framework or a simple method. And so that, I wanted to share that because that was one of the first things that turned me on to this idea that, oh my goodness, we can design a better experience of how people experienced us. I don't know if you've had any opportunities to try any of these methods, but that one worked super well for me.
I haven't heard of that. I'm going to be trying it though, so be nice to me. Just kidding. All of you out there listening, be nice. I'm just kidding. No,
it worked.
That sounds awesome. But man, what a hard time to get that kind of feedback. I'm really sorry, and offer you my condolences.
Yeah,
that was a hard time. I haven't lost my dad yet.
Events. Yeah, the two events where it was hard to put those. But I guess I want to maybe piggyback on that and say what that did for me was it took me into that next stage of how to begin thinking about the UX of you and what that really means. I saw us as, if you take design for what it is and the processes that we take design through, we start at that discovery and research phase, right? Where we're open to ideas and we're looking into the problems and we're trying to understand what's out there, and we're looking at competitors, and we're just in that discovery and research mode, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, well, if the Kanban thing works so well, let's back it up here and start to look at all of the other methods that we apply to a design and how we can turn those back on ourselves. And what I saw was that in the research and discovery phase, we are so good at a number of things. We're so good at observing. We're so good at recalling. We're so good at analyzing, asking questions. We're so good at bringing, people together to sort of go after and research all of these things. We're so good at stopping and discovering. And what are the things in there that you could apply to yourself to be a better observer, to be a better listener, to I took all of those and said, we could learn to be an active listener. We do that in usability testing and interviews with customers, right? And where we say, if I'm listening fully with my heart, my mind, my ears, my eyes, listening is a whole body experience. I feel like in usability testing and interviews, you have to be present. Do that with everybody you interact with. When you are in an interview, probably a good thing to remember somebody's name, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you remember someone's name, Dale Carnegie reminds us that a name is the sweetest sound in their language, right? To hear their own name. Remember people's names. These are foundational principles of just what it feels like to when people have a good experience of you. Read a room, right? Walk in, and whether it's an interview or a Zoom call or an in-person, whatever it is, begin to take notice of like the little things that are going on in that room, a picture on the wall, an award, something that's happening in that room that you can recall and tie back to that person. These are like super foundational things, but what they begin to do is they start to take you from basic soft skills as just being like, oh yeah, those are just soft skills. Soft skills amplify you. Soft skills take you to, that next level. Hard skills qualify you for the job. We got to have you, capable of doing the work, but soft skills amplify. And I like to think of them that way.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on. I don't have anything else to add. You just nailed it. I don't know what else to say. If you want to follow Mike, where can we find you?
Yeah. So, and thank you for giving me a chance to sort of, I love this stuff. I mean, I want to just let your listeners know that we've touched on just some of the very basics, right, of what you can do. Whether it's, taking methods, frameworks, anything that we do in UX. If you want to learn more about all of those different methods that you can apply to yourself to design how you're experienced by other people, I'd love to have you come over to my Medium page. You can find me at mikewcurtis.medium.com. That's where I just publish everything. I do have a YouTube channel. It's at the U Design System. I haven't done a ton there, but I'm looking into doing that. And then please connect on LinkedIn. You can find me, Mike Curtis. Just search Mike Curtis UX, and you'll probably find me somewhere in there. I can't remember my handle on LinkedIn, but yeah, there's just so much importance of how this framework can help you if you're struggling to get into UX, if you're struggling to get to your next role, struggling to get into leadership. Promise these methods and tools will help you do that.
I highly recommend you check it out because it is going to be huge. It's already helped me, and it's going to help you as well. Thank you so much for coming on, Mike. And remember, everyone, it's all about the people.